We now learn how to find the highest common factor of two numbers using prime factorization. That is, by writing two numbers as products of their prime factors. And we're going to do so with a couple of examples. Let's say we have to find the highest common factor of 36 and 120, and we wish to do so using prime factorization. Well, the first thing we need to do here, and I'll just write a little 1 here, is to write each of these two numbers as products of their prime factors. Now, if you're unsure of how to do this, make sure to watch the previous tutorial in which we learn all about that method, and you'll find the link to that tutorial in this video's description below. So we write 36 as a product of its prime factors as follows. 36 can be divided by 2, which is 18. 18 can be divided by 2, which gives us 9. 9 can be divided by 3, which gives us 3. And 3 can be divided by itself, that's 3, which gives us 1. So 36 is equal to 2 to the power of 2 times 3 to the power of 2. We do the same for 120. 120 can be divided by 2, which gives us 60. 60 can be divided by 2, which gives us 30. 30 can be divided by 2, which gives us 15. 15 can be divided by 3, which gives us 5. And 5 can be divided by 5, which gives us 1. And so 120 equals to 2 to the power of 3 times 5. Okay, that's our first step done. We've written each of the two numbers as products of their prime factors. Step 2, we find the highest common factor, and the highest common factor equals to the product of the prime factors that both numbers have in common raised to the lowest power seen. Let me just write that down. Here's what we mean. We can see that 36 and 120 both have 2 and 3 as prime factors. So those are the prime factors that they have in common. In fact, I'll just underline them in green here. And for each of those factors, we're looking for the smallest power that we can find. Well, the smallest power of 2 that we see is 2 squared, and the smallest power of 3 that we see is simply 3, so 3 to the power of 1. So the highest common factor will equal to 2 squared times 3. So I'll just write that down. The highest common factor equals to 2 to the power of 2 times 3. And if we're asked, we may need to actually calculate the value of that highest common factor, and that would equal to 4 times 3, which equals to 12. So we can state that the highest common factor equals to 12. I will point out that frequently in exams, we're simply asked to write the highest common factor as products of prime factors, so we could leave the answer as 2 squared times 3. Let's look at another example. Say we have to find the highest common factor of 126 and 60. Well, again, we follow the two steps we just learned. So step 1, we need to write each of those two numbers as products of their prime factors. So we start with 126. Now, 126 can be divided by 2, which leads to 63. And 63 can be divided by 3, which leads to 21. 21 can again be divided by 3, which leads us to 7. And 7 can be divided by itself, 7, which leads us to 1. So 126 is equal to 2 times 3 squared times 7. We do the same for 60. 60 can be divided by 2, which equals to 30, and 30 can be divided by 2, which leads to 15. 15 can be divided by 3, which leads to 5, and finally 5 can be divided by 5, which leads to 1. So 60 equals to 2 to the power of 2 times 3 times 5. Now that we've written each of these two numbers as products of their prime factors, we move on to step 2, in which we find the highest common factor. Remember that the highest common factor equals to the product of all of the prime factors that these two numbers have in common, raised to the smallest power we can see. Now, looking at both of these products of prime factors, we can see that the factors that they have in common are 2 and 3. And the smallest power of 2 that we see is simply 2, so that's 2 raised to the power of 1. And the lowest power of 3 that we can see is 3, so that's just 3 to the power of 1. So the highest common factor of 126 and 60 will equal to 2 times 3. That's HCF equals to 2 times 3, which of course equals to 6. And there we go. That's how we can find the highest common factor of two numbers using prime factorization. And that's it for this tutorial. There we go, everyone. I really hope that helped, and if it did, please hit like on this video and even subscribe to our channel because that really does help us. I'll see you soon.